I'm sorry to say it, but sometimes I feel like a lot of our title or status of being unmarried has to do with our location. Your chances are lower in a lot of these metropolitan cities. Although there's a lot more people, a lot of the times they're more career focused than they are family focused.
Because you were in DC for a little while.
Correct.
Yeah, I heard you talking about how you felt like the DC was just a swamp for dating.
Correct.
And you also likened it to Atlanta when it comes to dating.
Yes.
Yes.
I knew in my spirit my husband was not there. I could tell not only through my own experiences, but through the experiences of the women that I know that live in Washington, D.C. A lot of them are unmarried. I feel like a lot of men, they love D.C. because they know that
good pickings for them.
Oh, it is great pickings.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Atlanta is the same
Oh,
way.
Atlanta is the same exact way. And I think it's so interesting that you said not only for your own experiences, but look around, look at your friends. That just makes sense to me. Because at some point, it's not about you, it's about your environment. Because your environment does impact a lot of your day-to-day life. And why wouldn't it impact your dating life? Definitely.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So for people who didn't get or understand what that clip was, it was a lady who basically sit here and said, hey, you need to move sometimes to find real love, because realistically, in certain cities, especially if you're in the DMV, where a lot of people are career driven, and realistically, that thing about that's what to me, and I think a lot of people sometimes when you meet like out of town people, that to them is their biggest turnoff is when people be like, oh, the first thing when they meet somebody, like, oh, what do you do? For a lot of out of town people, especially people if you're from the South or you somewhere from maybe like Seattle or Portland, that's a turnoff to most people. Like most people do not like people sitting here. The first thing I'm do when I first meet somebody, the first thing is, what do you do? So I kind of agree with what she was saying, was like maybe sometimes if you really are searching for love, you may need to move to a smaller city where people take dating a lot more serious. What's your thoughts?
So what are you supposed to ask outside of what do you do?
I don't necessarily. I mean, real conversations to me, it was like,
but that's a real conversation.
Is it? Because I don't think realistically what somebody do don't make it doesn't tell you nothing about their personality or who they are as a person. It's just because somebody, again, when I'm talking about sports conversations, you just got a job. That don't necessarily mean who you are as a person. And that to me will be the perfect example of, okay, Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Sharpe are both black men who work at ESPN, but they're taking the way they spoke until today. They're speaking on black women when it came to sports was not what you would expect from a black man on a sports network, especially speaking on a black woman. So realistically, that don't make with the job that they have doesn't have nothing to do with who they are as men, because you didn't get to real live and see who their personalities and who they were as men until they spoke on another black person.
But I don't think you ask somebody, what do you do, to figure out the type of person they are.
No, you're trying to figure out what tax bracket they in.
But it's just a general conversation.
But listen to what I'm saying. Going back into the conversation we had last week. Think about you sitting here asking how many people ask you what you do, but then we don't never sit here. We going to have kids, and you never talked about religion. So which one is realistically more important, my job or what religion I am?
I feel like that's a natural thing when you meet somebody, like, hey, what do you do? I feel like religion, kids, like that's more so. I feel like that in the beginning when you meet somebody, that scares them off.
But hey, don't listen to what I'm saying. It's cool if it scare them off, but we're talking about what is more important, because where somebody work at, and if I sit here and say, oh, I got the greatest job in the world, but I'm a goddamn atheist, and you believe in Christ or you believe in Allah or whoever, what the fuck do it matter where I work at?
I think the way you work at matters.
I mean, that's
because the only reason I say that, because if you not, let's just say like whatever job, if your job is supposed to be sacred, you're not supposed to know. I get that part. But then at the end of the day, if I don't sell, you know what I'm saying? Like your religion, I don't think that's going to turn you away. Be like, oh, well, I'm, you know what I'm saying? Because how many people do you actually know that's an atheist? So I don't think that would turn anybody away. But me questioning you about where you work at or what you do, but I get it for, from a female, for a guy, I probably wouldn't ask a female what she do for work. But for a female, I could, whether I need to be talking to you or not.
I hear you. So, but I get, well, you stepped out for a second, but the clip was, the lady said, she basically said she used to live in the DMV area. And she said for her dating purposes, that she felt like it was better to move into a smaller city where bigger metropolitan area, major cities, people are more career driven instead of relationship driven. So more people care about their career or what they do or where you work or where you live at than you actually do on getting to know somebody to actually want to settle down, where if you may have been meeting somebody in like a smaller city like a South Carolina or a North Carolina. Or shit, even somewhere like Detroit, where a lot of people in Detroit, the good job is working at Ford. General Motors, one of those places, like that is the good job. I remember talking about that maybe like a year or two ago when I met a lady. She was from Indiana, and she was like at one before. I forgot what was the car. It was one of those big car jumps where she was like her granddad, her father, and her brother. All three of them retired from working in the car industry.
So you think that's not a good question? I mean, you
no, I'm not. It's screw even if that's a good question. I'm just talking about. Do you agree with her saying that it's easier to find actually love in somebody who wants to settle down in a smaller city?
But then I think that's all depend on your lifestyle too. If you not the outgoing type, like I'm kind of chill, I don't, you know what I'm saying, that would be a perfect fit for you because now I'm somewhere where it's low key, it's not as busy. It's kind of
so that's my thing. Even you can kind of tie that into it for major cities. That's a distraction as well. When you got too much to do and you can sit here and say, oh, I can go to brunch every Sunday, or I can go out to the club, or I can go to this hookah spot. That is a distraction from actually getting to know somebody, or actually sit here and say I'm going to date. Because in the back of your mind, when you always had that option where it's like, oh, it don't matter if this don't work, I go find me somebody at park on Sunday anyway. Like that's a distraction.
But if that's your goal, if that's what you're looking for, then that won't be your distraction. If that's what you actually want, you're not going to get distracted by all the brunches, and if that's what you're looking for.
Because and then that's when you say she from the DMV. So let's just say, okay, most people she met or even dealt with was scamming, selling drugs, or whatever the case.
No, she's talking about working class people. This wasn't. This is a working class woman. This ain't no. She ain't talking about no scammers or no drug dealers. She talking about regular working class people.
Because I have a cousin that she just moved down south. She said it's slim pickings down south. She's really like, it's no black men down south where she's at anyway.
Where she move at though?
She's in South Carolina.
So it probably just depend on where where you move at. You kind of gotta have the.
But if they not looking for love, or that's not what they looking for, it don't matter where you move. You just not. It's not going. They not interested. I don't feel like it's a certain area where you can move to, where I'm gonna find love at.
I think if you move somewhere where it's a lot slow and it's a lot less to do, I think the chances of you finding love is way easier than.
If it's nothing to do, then you might get bored. Then whoever it is, they might get bored if it's nothing to do.
Get bored in what sense though? If I'm getting bored, I'm in the house. We cool. We gonna be bored together.
But how you find her if you in the house?
Nigga, that's when you go to let's say if my still routine was just I'm going to church and I'm going to the gym. If I'm in a small black city like South Carolina, nigga, I'm gonna find somebody in church. That I don't even think that's even like that. Dog, even if y'all, and that's why I say, even if you go on YouTube and you just look at a lot of those services, like shit, even from somebody like a big pastor like John Gray, he preaching South Carolina, or shit, even Stephen Furtick, he a white pastor in South Carolina as well. Him and Charlamagne from the same Zach Jones. Oh, this church be jam packed. You can find somebody in church in a smaller city because guess what? In the South, that's what they do. You can find somebody at a football game. If I lived in Texas on a Friday night, guess what I can do? I can go to a high school football game and not no Diddy or no funny shit, but that's where the whole town is. Everybody's here. Everybody at this goddamn football game. I can find somebody.
Does that mean you won't find love? Because you can go to the grocery store and find, you know what I'm saying? I don't think it's.
I can go to the Walmart if I'm in the South. But listen to what I'm saying. When we saying, are you going to find love? Of course, it's not no guarantee with it. But is it the chances of me finding love way higher if I'm not sitting here? If I know that my options is a little bit slimmer, because I'm not. Guess what? What we talked about last week. I eliminate the grass being green on the other side.
Are you settling? Maybe that's. Are you settling for?
I mean, even if I got Bernice, I'm still settling. If I sit here and say, oh, I'm going to settle with Bernice. Oh, you can see niggas can see Jalen Green is 22 years old. This nigga's happy as a goddamn kid with a fucking faggy and a dick and a goddamn dildo store, nigga. With what's the girl name? With Drea. He happy as hell walking in the middle of the street with her. Nigga, he 22. We can argue and sit here and say, nigga, he's settling already at 22 years old. This nigga ain't even hit a max contract yet. You can sit here and you can use anything and say you settling. I think when people use the word settling, you feel like, oh, I'm just literally calling it quits with whatever the next person that come through the door. Okay, you can sit here and meet your dream girl and still feel like you settling. Like if Drake sit here today or tomorrow and say, I'm getting married, he's settled because his nigga still got the whole entire world he can touch if he wants to.
Not necessarily, because he's with who he want to be with. So that's
settling still. But I think because when normal people use the word settling, we make it seem like, oh, it's the end of the world.
No, settling is like like not the end of the world, but it's not what I wanted, but I'll take it.
And that's what I'm just kind of taking it, because you're saying like, all right, in a major city, yeah, I couldn't find it because the pool is whatever the case may be, but I go to a smaller city, it's not my taste, but the men treat me better.
Because when you settle,
not, you said that's what I'm saying. So you're settling happy for less of the evil.
Oh, okay, you could tie. Well, we could tie it into sport. Well, we could tie it in any school. If your kid want to go to college and they only get one goddamn scholarship, they settling, but they not selling. This is the only option that I got. I didn't get a bunch of other scholarships from a bunch of different schools to go to. This was the only school that accepted me and offered me a full ride. So is that bad? Because I took this one instead of waiting.
Not bad, but it's not the one that you wanted. But it's
that's not me.
So okay, but let's sit here and say. Let's sit here and say if Harvard was my goal, but I end up going into Notre Dame. Notre Dame is still an Ivy League school as well. But like, what are we talking about?
But I think also you still not going to.
I didn't get into Harvard. I got into Yale. Like what the fuck? Like I mean, come on, dog. Like if you still let's sit here and say my goal was Lauren London, but I end up getting Lala. Like is that fucking selling it?
But see, but you picking people that's not, you know what I'm saying? It ain't too many Lauren Londons or Lalas walking around here. So that's what but that's what I'm saying. But if she's saying that she left this area and went to another, you know what I'm saying, a smaller city to find love, then that means, well, okay, yeah, I did find people there, but they wasn't, you know, that's not what I want my future to be with. I found somebody here who was kind of like, all right, he's not the best looking, but he is, you know, he treat me better for love.
So what's more important? Because you're basically saying the look. So I'm just gonna thug it out in the city with a better looking people and never find love, instead of saying, all right, I may not be able to be. That's just even just kind of, we could tie it into sports again. And this is not shade. This is just real life shit. It's a difference between watching Caitlin Clark, all her highlights in college was dogging other white girls, and now I got to play all black girls. It's a huge difference. I wasn't settling in Iowa, but I was just in a bullshit conference playing a bunch of white girls. Now I got to play a bunch of niggas. It's a lot different. It's just different. I look like the greatest show on planet Earth when I'm playing a bunch of white girls, but now I got to play a bunch of niggas. It just get different. Was I settling when I was in Iowa? No, this is where I was at. I'm hooping in Iowa. This is the conference I'm in is full of a bunch of white girls. My bad. So what the fuck do you want me to do? You want me to still sit here like I'm 100% positive? If just let's be honest, for most Caitlin Clark fans, or even probably Caitlin Clark herself, if she could find a way to play professional women's basketball play and still play the competition that was playing in Iowa, I'm sure she would rather play that. Is that settling? No, I just realistically of what I can actually thrive in is the competition a little bit less. If I'm with a woman and she like, damn, my last nigga was a minute man, and you can sit here and deliver her something completely different, like, I don't know, though. I think that word settling is kind of, it has a bad word to it, and I think
it's a stigma on it, because it's like when you settle, it's like, it's not the end of the world, but it's not what you really wanted. So, but then in the situation, if it's not what you really wanted, then are you happy with that?
But sometimes you just got to adjust. And this is my last sports analogy. This is like for people who don't, Vince Carter. Let's use Vince Carter for example. When he first came out, he was half man, half amazing. The older he got, even LeBron James ain't never shoot threes until he got older. I'm not settling, but I'm just being more realistically, dog, I'm 40. I cannot jump as often as I used to. That shit is a lot harder. It hit your knees a lot harder. Your legs feel a little bit different. For most people, if you listening, think about how you felt when you was 18 compared to how you feeling you waking up in your 30s. That same energy ain't the same getting out of the bed, because guess what? When you was 18, 19, you ain't think about no goddamn cup of coffee. I'm sure most adults got long work days now. You just probably drink some coffee, some energy drink, something like that. Think about, you probably never think about, unless it was mixing Red Bull with vodka, you wasn't even thinking about no goddamn Red Bull when you was 18, 19. But the older you get, you probably figuring out, okay, which caffeine is a little bit better on my body that lasts me a little bit longer. No, it's a part of life. I don't think, that's why I think the word settling just a nasty word, and it's not. It's used.
I think it's life. It's just a part of compromising. Like, okay, I can't have this, but I can get this, and you just gotta kind of work with it, because you're not. I don't think nobody's going to get 100. Nobody's going to get 100% of what they're looking for out of a relationship. So at some point you're going to have to compromise. Or if you want to call it settling, then you call it settling. But I feel like it's a compromise.
I only think, because like you said, from what you told me from the conversation, is just when you use that city, it's like, all right, well, the city was here, and now I'm in a smaller city. I'm better in the dating pool, and that's why I'm saying I feel like that's what you're settling for. Because like I said, if you didn't find it there because there's more distractions or whatever the case may be, but then I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go somewhere that's more local and more, and you know what I'm saying? So you're just settling for a little town and it might be a better taste, but really, is that what you want? That's why I said it was.
I mean, I think it just depends on. I think it depends on where you at mentally. I think we can kind of all just agree on that, because to me personally, shit, if I could hit the lotto right now, tomorrow for 300 million, I still would want to kind of like move somewhere in a smaller area. But shit is just a lot less people, you a little bit more off, and just you can kind of just be in the house. Because if you get to that point where you're a homebody, do it really matter what city you in at that point?
No.
So that's my point. So I think it's just like, and that don't necessarily mean settling. Because if I sit here and go hit for $300 million, I don't feel like I'm settling, because I feel like I can get whatever woman in the world I want. Again, and we can kind of tie that into Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Shout outs to them two niggas, because them two niggas is young.